Okay, so this is going to be a kind of in-depth version of the Antarctic 24-hour sun and how it's possible within the conceptualized flat Earth model of a dome-type structure in which the sun circles between the tropics annually from Cancer to Capricorn and back. And I'm going to be able to show you in several different ways how this can be possible within this type of model. The fact that I can show you that it's possible in several different ways completely eradicates the whole idea that a circling sun, an apparent counterclockwise circling sun in Antarctica during the southern summer falsifies the AE map. It does not. It doesn't falsify the AE map at all. As a matter of fact, I believe it fits the AE map. Am I claiming that the AE map is all there is and that's it? No, I'm not claiming that. I personally believe in the moon map theory, where the AE map is the current known livable circle. And there's a whole lot of other area that we don't know about just yet, or that the masses don't know about. Now, outside of our livable circle that is moving around the larger circle every 26,000 years, the great year cycle, which they try to explain with our wobble in the heliocentric model, saying that the wobble of our tilt is what causes that 26,000 year great year cycle. I believe the moon map theory is the better answer for that. However, we won't get into that. We're going to get into what you just using the known area, what we know of, which is the AE map. That is our known area. Matter of fact, that particular map, or I guess a projection map like the AE map, is what is programmed into all autopilot software for airplanes. Now, a friend of mine, Steven Alonzo, has created a Firmament Trackers flat Earth app that accounts for all of this. It has the smaller dome that you see inside here, represented by these smaller domes, as the azimuthal personal grid view of the observer. And you can put those all over the realm and see what the luminaries are doing and make predictions based off of that in this new app. Very cool app. I recommend everybody go look it up. It's in the Google Play Store under Firmament Trackers app. He's working on getting it out to Apple, the Apple iOS store. So it's not out there yet, but it is in the Google Play Store, and I would recommend people go check it out. Very cool app. And Steve is very approachable, very open. So if you have questions, you can reach out to him on Facebook, through email, whatever. And I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help guide you through it or answer any questions. But with no further ado, we're going to get into this Antarctic 24-hour sun, because one thing is certain. We know the floor is level. What we don't know is anything about the sky, because once we discovered that the floor is level, the earth isn't moving, then nothing about what we've been taught about the luminaries above us is true. Nothing. Then we have to figure out what is true and what's possible and what can happen. So for someone to say that a 24-hour Antarctic sun circling in an apparent counterclockwise motion in Antarctica during the southern summer falsifies the AE map is errant thinking. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. I know there's some high profile guys that are making that claim, and people get upset when you question that. Look, I got mad respect for everybody who's fighting for truth. But all of us can fall into the trap of thinking, well, it's got to be this way, instead of saying, wait a minute, nothing is what we've been told. So let's really start thinking outside of the box and stop allowing ourselves to get trapped into this dogmatic way of thinking, and to say that a 24-hour Antarctic circling sun refutes the AE map is very dogmatic in your thinking and just errant and wrong. And anybody should be able to admit that has made that claim. Look, I get it. We all make claims that we have to grow past. I've made claims before that the sun and the moon were in the clouds. Now I've done tons of videos and demonstrations showing why that's not the case. Do they appear to be in the clouds? Yes. Are they physically in the clouds? No. It's an optical illusion, but it still is evidence for a flat Earth. I used to think the moon was transparent, translucent. I no longer think that after testing, observing, and demonstrating how these things are working. I no longer say that. So we learn and we grow. We're trying to uncover hidden knowledge that is being purposefully hidden from us. We are being purposely lied to about this. So it's not backtracking to say, well, it's possible for a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. What it is we've realized, look, no matter what, the truth is on our side. We know the floor is level. The evidence for that is overwhelming. So to make a claim that because the lights in the ceiling do something we don't understand, which they do every single day, then it falsifies this AE map, which is our best current map. It just doesn't. And to make that claim is very, very errant, because our entire atmos is different. Everything's different. And we're going to get into that right now. Okay, so this is my first demonstration where I took this model, and you can see here, each one of these 6 zones represents a 4-hour time slot, 24 hours a day. The smaller dome just represents the personal azimuthal view, grid view that our eyes give us. So our eyes shrink down the larger sky to our personal perspective, giving us a smaller dome view of the overall larger dome. This is conceptual, not physical. So in this first video that I'm going to play, it's very short. What I've done was, because I believe there's a superfluid ceiling that starts and is pretty much a level ceiling, and that superfluid fills this whole upper portion of the celestial dome. And no, I don't believe the dome is exactly like this. I actually believe there's a central vortex. So it kind of dips down in the center. I would actually say it's more diamond shaped, and we'll get into that in a second. But what I did for this video was I put my mimic superfluid ceiling in. And when I put that mimic superfluid ceiling in, I can take out the smaller dome or leave it in. It still works either way, but I can take it out, because people want to say, oh, well, the small dome is stupid. That's not how, it's not a reality and all that. Okay, well, I can take it out. I can use this two-way mirror that you see here and insert it in here and do the demonstration. And you're going to see in this video, when I point the camera up to that southern part of the sky, you get an apparent counterclockwise motion of the sun. And you're going to see that right now. So I'm moving the source light clockwise around Capricorn, and you're seeing the sun go in a counterclockwise motion across the sky, the southern sky. So you get that counterclockwise rotation. Now people want to say, well, there's no proof of a superfluid. And how do you know a superfluid would reflect like that? Well, it would act exactly like a two-way mirror, a superfluid. One superfluids we can recreate, and the interesting thing about superfluids is they actually suspend themselves in the top of their containers, and across their surface they will be level, which answers a few things. It answers the second Gaussian surface that allows us to have horizontal equipotential lines of voltage. It gives a viable explanation for the 24-hour southern sun. It explains what these rockets are hitting that looks like a fluid when they go straight up, and they hit that, make those big blue beautiful wakes that look like boats in water. Superfluids would be super ionized gases, and then a fluid at its surface. So we have a superfluid suspended in the top of the dome. At its surface is going to be super reflective, just like I could go out here to my pool, and during this day I can see through the pool, yet I can see a perfect reflection of the sun on the surface. As long as the water is perfectly still, I can see a perfect reflection. Now, if it's not perfectly still, I don't get that perfect reflection, but I get a perfect reflection when the water is perfectly still, and I can see through the water. So that's a two-way mirror. So a superfluid ceiling would act as a two-way mirror. So this is a viable explanation. We're going to play it again. You're going to see this is the apparent sun, and we everybody knows we have an apparent sun. So to think that we have this physical sun that we can see physically and track physically is just ignorant on both sides, because both sides know we don't. Both sides know we have an apparent sun. And to say that, well, if it's a reflection in the south, we'll know it. Well, it's a reflection everywhere if we're inside of a dome, because it's either coming through the dome and it is a reflection off of that crystalline structure, or it is coming from under and reflecting off the dome. So either way, we're not seeing the physical source, we're seeing its reflection into our realm or its projection into our realm. So we're seeing a projection of the source, not the source itself, which has an apparent position, not a physical position, in both models. Again, which is why it's errant to say that this circling 24-hour Antarctic sun would falsify the AE map. All right, so that was one video. We'll play it one more time. You get to see as I move the source around Capricorn, you will see the apparent light inside the realm going counterclockwise. Apparently counterclockwise. See? That apparent counterclockwise rotation. All right, so I'm going to show you this again in another modality or another method, which I showed this one on the podcast we did the other night with Vika and Gene and Dave and psychedelicizationism. I think I said that right, something like that. I really like that guy. His work's very cool. So in this one, you see the same thing. You see I've got north, west, east, and south. Basically, this is looking down. This is the hot spot of the sun. This way would be the North Pole. This is south towards the edge of the dome, east and west. So basically, you're standing here, and this is the sun circling around you on the ground. And when I start to move it, you're going to see sun moving counterclockwise. You can even see the map here. This is the map. The sun's moving counterclockwise. This is another way of showing the same phenomenon that I just showed with looking up at the two-way mirror that I use as a mimic superfluid ceiling. So you still see the same pattern, this southern counterclockwise rotation, apparent counterclockwise rotation. This is north, west, east, and south. This would be where you're standing. That's the sun moving counterclockwise on the ground around you. And you can clearly see it. So that's another way it can work without the superfluid ceiling. All right, so let's go to another one. This is a version that's zoomed in on this little dome here from over here. The camera's over here zoomed in, and what you're seeing is, and you can see these two different reflections. These are on two different sides of the dome, but you're getting that counterclockwise rotation. So counterclockwise, counterclockwise. And that's with me moving the source light around clockwise around the Tropic of Capricorn. We'll play it again just so you can see it. You're getting the counterclockwise rotation. Just fine. Another way of showing that it's possible. So I'm going to keep showing different ways that it's possible. It's possible this way with the superfluid ceiling by looking at it, the hot spot on the floor. So let's go to, well, I got interrupted by a phone call, so I had to cut out and come back. But anyway, back to this, you can see, like I said, this is a zoomed in version of what I just showed you before. And you can see this counterclockwise rotation of the light. So it's giving this apparent counterclockwise rotation of the sun that far south. Now you're getting a bunch of other reflections and lens flares and stuff like that. Plus you're getting the reflections from these other quadrants as well. But this main one here, sorry, I was pointing at the wrong screen, looking at the wrong screen. This main one here is what we're looking at. And this is our sun going counterclockwise. And again, you get this double sun because I'm working with acrylic domes and not with a real Earth scenario, but conceptually it works. So again, another way that it's working. All right. Now I'm going to do another one. This is where I've laid the phone inside here on the Gleason's map, facing up to the two-way mirror that I use as my mimic superfluid ceiling. And what you're going to see is, once I start moving the source light, now in this you will see the source light as well. And in our real scenario, I don't think we're ever going to see the source light. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And I'm not going to get into all that right now. We only ever see the apparent sun to all perspectives on Earth. But here we go. So what you're seeing is this counterclockwise rotation. This is it. That's the source. And this is the counterclockwise rotation. So now, is this perfect? No, it's not perfect. But what it's showing is that it's possible. And I've shown it several different ways now. But you can clearly see this counterclockwise rotation that is happening. So we have Arctic and anti-Arctic. That's where that comes from. Some people say, well, it means bears and no bears. Maybe that's true as well. But I personally think it means because we have this anti-arc, this anti-travel of the luminaries above us. So you can clearly see it there. I've added the superfluid ceiling. This is where the phone is laying in the bottom, looking up at the superfluid ceiling, close to the south. I'm moving the source around Capricorn, and you get this counterclockwise apparent sun, and even the hot spot that follows it as well across the surface. So that's one more way that it works. Let's see here. Where do I want to go next? We're going to go to this one. This is another version with the smaller dome zoomed in, except this time the camera, you can see the camera position is facing down. Now watch this hot spot on the ground. See, these lights represent the sun itself. There's 4 of them because it's reflecting off of all 4 physical domes, which Again, but watch the hot spot. See the hot spot on the map itself going counterclockwise across the floor there. You just watch it really closely. You'll see that the hot spot travels, this hot spot right here will travel counterclockwise around the floor of the map. And it'll be in sync with these that represent the source light. See it? Watch. Comes down, in and around. I don't know how many more ways I can show it. That's 3 different ways right there that I'm showing that the phenomenon can happen. Now, why I think this phenomenon is happening is several reasons. One, I don't believe it's a dome like this. I believe it's more like this. More like the top of a diamond. And in each one of these zones, you get, see that the source light is actually moving inside of this zone here. And then once it gets far enough out on Capricorn, you get these anti-rotations in these other zones, kind of like a kaleidoscope. And this is kind of like looking at the top of a diamond, like a diamond that's been a cut gemstone, a crystalline structure. So this is looking at the top of the diamond. And then another one. This one has 8 zones. So it's possible that it's not just 6 zones that it's happening in, that it's happening in 8 zones. And the source is moving in this realm here, and you're getting these anti-rotations relative to their time zone, or relative to the observer on the outer edge, that have these anti-rotations to the central rotation. And because it's a super reflective crystalline structure, it causes that phenomenon. Just like a diamond. So if you think of just chopping that off level, and you still have these crystal refraction zones, this would be the top of the dome, or where the central vortex comes down through here. So this is kind of the top here. And then we're looking up to this, and that light source is moving around there. You're going to get these anti-rotation zones that the viewer gets. And again, the superfluid would give us that as well. Here's another video that my friend Chris Cooper put together for me, where I'm showing these zones and these different viewers. Unfortunately, in this app, it doesn't let us take the viewer all the way to Antarctica. But if you pay close attention, every zone has some sort of daylight at all times. Even in these areas where it looks dark, on this edge, you can see the sunlight. So every zone is getting 24 hours of sunlight regardless. And if we could move the observer far enough south, then you get a 24-hour rotation, and you don't get this merging and splitting at all. I don't personally think we would ever see that regardless, but everybody's curious about this. Well, wouldn't we see this merge and split? No, we have an apparent sun, not a physical sun. So just back like I showed you in the diamond pattern, it's moving here between Cancer and Capricorn, and then once it gets out to Capricorn, it creates this anti-rotation. Well, it always kind of has a somewhat of an anti-rotation, even with the sun, but it becomes much more pronounced, and to the point to where if you're far enough south, it will give you that 24-hour circling sun. We'll go back to that video, and it's showing you this same kind of diamond pattern that I'm talking about. And I put that together a while back. This is a cool little video because it looks like this is moving. So we think we have this all figured out, and oh, we can say for 100% sure this about the lights in the ceiling, when we can't say anything 100% sure about the lights in the ceiling, other than They're there. They have apparent movements based off perspective, and that's about it. Like we we can't get up to them, we can't measure them, we don't know what our atmos is like now that we know that we're on a level enclosed realm. So in this video, it clearly looks like everything's moving, but it's not. And then you go to the next video where I've added little markers. You can tell it's not actually moving, but based off of the way the light is working, it makes your eyes think that it is moving. And I'm not saying that the sun and the moon and stuff aren't moving. I'm just saying we don't fully understand optics and light, especially when it comes to the luminaries inside of this enclosed realm. And if we can't admit that, then we're being arrogant. Again, this is the one where I was showing the rotation and how the hot spot is actually going counterclockwise. But I mean, that kind of wraps it up. I do want to look at this. This was Stephen Alonzo's app that I'm talking about, the Firmament Trackers app.
Joe,
Yeah,
I'm ordering a Dario. What you want?
give me a minute. I'll be up in a second. So anyway, sorry about that. This is the app, and it shows these personal azimuthal grids, viewer grids that you see here, represented by this small dome, all over the realm at one time, and how they all have an apparent view of the sun itself. And even this, in my opinion, this sun is apparent. It's not actually physical. It's either coming from underneath and reflecting off, or it's being projected through. Either way, it's not a physical point of reference. It is an apparent point of reference. Now let's go to this. These are ferrocell images, and you can see here these, and even in these 6 zones on these outer edges. Some of them have 8, some have 6. It could be 8. I don't know. Maybe it's 6, maybe it's 8. We don't know. We need to do a lot of research to figure this out. But you can see they all have under these ferrocell images. Actually, these are cymatic images. Sorry, but you can see these cymatic images with these same types of patterns. And then when you look at a ferrocell image, this is a ferrocell image here, where I've applied the star, what they call the Star of David, which isn't really the Star of David, or the Seal of Solomon or whatever, but it gives these, and this is a magnetic field. I just put this in here because symbolism is everything, and I believe that symbolism exists in creation. And it's been certain symbols that exist in creation been taken and used for evil. Doesn't mean that the symbol is evil. It just means it's been used that way. But you see these zones, these 6 zones in this magnetic field under this ferrocell, and those all represent this small dome grid view, which you see here. So it's very easy to see how this Antarctic 24-hour sun can work inside of a system like this. We have this enclosure, this crystalline enclosure that's super reflective, an atmosphere that is super reflective, most likely a superfluid ceiling that is super reflected, a 70+% surface of water that is super reflected, surrounded by ice that is super reflective. So to claim that a 24-hour sun in Antarctica cannot work on the AE map is just wrong. It's errant, and anybody who makes that claim needs to reevaluate what they're claiming, and hopefully this video will help. God bless. Hope everybody has a great night.